there are some films or movies that tell the origin story right. That being said, this character, you can't really give a good origin story because there's multiple choice on how the Joker became Joker. But the 2019's Joker by Todd Phillips, starring Joaquin Phoenix, is a pretty damn good job of how a possible origin happened. Or did it? You have nothing to say?
No, I was just letting that sink in.
Before Joker Folie, Deux, if I'm saying it right, I don't speak French,
I'm gonna go with
comes
no.
out, fair enough. We wanted to review the original, right?
Well, that's the whole intent of this video.
True, true. On Rotten Tomatoes, it is scored still at 69% by the critics and 89% by the audience.
Mhm.
I'm wondering why it's so low by the critics.
Well, I know
Because,
why.
man, you know why?
Yeah, yeah.
We'll discuss it after our intro. Welcome back to Tales of Two Bros. My name is Angel,
I'm a Don.
where we give a review at least once a week. Spoiler alert. Okay, so right off the bat, why do you think the critics gave it such a low score?
There's a couple reasons. One is it was highly compared to a lot of other movies because of the way
Oh, of
it was
course.
shot and referenced a lot of things. Most notably, Taxi Driver was one of the big things. A lot of Scorsese films.
Well, let's go over that because you're right. But it was Taxi Driver, like you said, the king of comedy.
Mhm.
Of course, The Killing Joke
Yep.
as in written material. You also have here The Dark Knight by Frank Miller, especially at the end,
Yeah.
towards the end.
But I'm talking about a lot of the film critics were talking about
No, I
other
get it. I
films,
get
not
it.
comics.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I understand. Like I said, Taxi Driver, the king
Yeah.
of comedy, again, both starring Robert De Niro, The
Mhm.
Man Who Laughs, Serpico with Al
Mhm.
Pacino, Network. You also have here City Lights, You Only Live Once, Citizen Kane, A Wonderful, like a lot of multiple films. And Todd Phillips also admitted that he used his own film, The Hangover, as a part of it, another influence of telling this story.
Yeah.
But you can definitely see, especially in the sense of the setting, it's set in the 70s, early 80s, just like Taxi Driver,
Mhm.
Serpico, King
Most
of
Batman
Comedy, all
movies.
that stuff. Most Batman movies,
Yeah. Think of Michael Keaton Batman, right? That's
that's
set like
89
yes, but I'm
thing.
talking about the environment of what it's set and so forth like that. Long story short is the critics were putting it out there that the movie's actually unoriginal because there is just too heavily referenced and there's nothing original about it. I know, irony, pot
But
calling kettle black,
well,
considering
the
all in
thing is,
all.
right, because a lot of movies are influenced by other movies that come out
Mhm.
later, right? The Batman, that's heavy influenced by Seven, Saw, and other films. I'm drawing a blank,
Yeah.
but they have that influence in that. And that's a great movie in itself. I mean, I don't mind that they use other sources in the sense of popular
Oh no,
films that
on
were
the contrary,
done.
I'm very good with it. I'm just saying at that time when the movie was coming out, those were the
Mhm.
words that I was hearing and reading. Oddly enough, there was a lot of publication talking about like this movie might incite people to violence and stuff like that, and it was getting a lot of publicity, but it was negative publicity. It was ridiculous, really. Like it was like
Well, that goes to the whole old saying, like it says like video games cause violence in kids.
exactly.
They're saying the same thing with comic books, but before that, and so forth and so forth. I mean, if you're gonna do harm, you're gonna do harm, regardless.
Well, they thought like people would dress up like Joker and maybe go to the theater and like shoot it up or something like that. Literally, that's
Well,
like
that's what
conversations that were
happened.
having.
But
Not
that's what happened in one theater of the on the Batman viewing. A guy dressed up with color hair, with green hair,
yeah, during
dressed
the
up,
Christopher Nolan one, but that was the thing. People were saying that was going to happen with this Joker movie
and that didn't
because
happen at all.
absolutely not. On the
Yeah.
contrary,
Now, I own this movie, and this is maybe the third time I've seen it, meaning that this movie is so good that sometimes you don't have to see it again and again. You know what I'm saying? Like there are
yeah,
some films, like action films, like that you want to see the action over and over again, like The Expendables or
hmm
Star Wars, what have you. Here, like to me, it was such a freaking good movie that I didn't have the need to see it multiple times. And I'm glad because when I saw it again for this review, holy crap, was I blown away. In our previous reviews of other films or shows that we like pick out, like what's our favorite moment, whatever,
Yeah.
Dude, there are like several great moments here.
Well, absolutely.
I mean, he won the Oscar. I mean, this is the second time that the character Joker has won an Oscar. Heath Ledger won it for Best Supporting. Joaquin Phoenix won it for Best Acting Role, and I can see why. Now,
Yeah.
for the second Joker, I don't know how that's going to be, and I'm kind of concerned about how the second Joker, because Todd Phillips doesn't have a great record, like Jon Favreau doesn't have a great record of doing a sequel. Like Hangover was great, then it got redundant for part 2, and overkill redundancy in part 3.
Mm.
The Joker, the second one coming out, from what I've seen in the previews that unfortunately they showed up, I think it takes place after, of course, he's hospitalized.
Yeah.
And I have a problem with that because the way the movie was done and how it ended, you don't know if it was actually real or as if it was all in his imagination.
For certain aspects, I would say yes. But I see where you're coming from. Yeah.
The way it ends, like he's laughing, he's at the shrink, at the Arkham Asylum, and you're like, wait a minute, was this all in his mind? Because he's laughing. He's like, what's so funny? And he goes, you wouldn't get it.
Yes.
So having this second movie out, it kind of like kills that suspense, because every time you see it, you can see it in a different way. It's like the one of those books that has a different ending. If you choose this path.
It's one of the those things like when you watch a movie that has somewhat ambiguous at the end, where it's but then they make a sequel and now all that ambiguousness goes out the water, makes that thrill of the ending of I don't know exactly everything that happened goes away. Yeah. Arguably the same feeling that we talked about before, like with Joker in general having an origin story. Some of the things that make him the most scariest character in the rogues gallery for Batman is you don't know his true ending, his true beginnings. Is talked about, and like Killing Joke, we always talk about that, is a one-off story. It's not technically, when it came out, it wasn't technically canon, but people assumed it was. And lately, for those who don't read comics, they did add like an origin to Joker, and then they tried to retcon that like 3 times.
Well, you said 3 times because oddly enough, in the comics there are 3 Jokers.
Yes, and then they tried to retcon that also.
How so?
It turns out they all knew each other, and then there was one that was manipulating them all, and then and he ends up killing them all, and then leaving himself. That was more recent. It's cool, but wild at the same time, and I'm like, okay, it's a lot.
That being said, then all right, because I didn't know that happened at the end. But real quick, I mean, the cast is amazing. Of course, Joaquin Phoenix, Robert De Niro. You have Zazie Beetz. Again, you see her, like, again, another comic book related movie for her. She's in Deadpool. She's in this. She does a voice for the girl in Invincible. She's like, has multiple things. It's like, I'm surprised that Rosario Dawson didn't play the role of her.
Why would because Rosario Dawson has done more work as a comic book character?
Yeah, she does. Like, she takes all of them. She's like, Star Wars, Marvel, DC. She's like, Jesus Christ, stop. I'm glad that Zazie. Yes. And then she did a DNC or something like that, the show.
Daredevil?
Or DMC. It was like it's a DC movie show.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, why? Brett Cullen, he was Thomas Wayne. You have Shea Whigham. He was in Boardwalk Empire. And he was in Agent Carter, the show.
Mm-hmm. I like him.
No, of course. And then you have Brian Tyree Henry. We saw him in the recent Transformers 1. This was the first time I've seen him, and he was great. The way he acted, he blew me away because I never saw him before. Like how natural he was.
You didn't notice him at first.
Right. But I noticed him then in a sense like this guy has it good, in a sense like he has the it. Because him going back and forth with Joaquin Phoenix, in that, I was like, holy crap, he's holding his own in a strong way.
He's played in a lot of different things, and but lately he's on our radar now. And, And when
Godzilla,
we watch his stuff, you start seeing like
Transformer. He was in Eternals. He was, yes, he was all in Bullet Train. So yeah, he's on the radar. I like the fact Arthur's name abbreviated is a call to Ben Affleck. Arthur Fleck. Affleck.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
You didn't realize that? Oh my God. Yeah, it was a big thing because, Ben Affleck was at the time doing his Batman, going back and forth.
He was
in
the
a sense
Batman.
of, right. Because he was supposed to come out with his own Batman film himself and direct it himself,
hmm
but that fell through. That Matt Reeves took over, and then we got what we got. This is separated. It is not at all tied to the DCU or DCEU. It's a
Correct.
standalone. Not well. It was a standalone movie, but it's a standalone like story arc of this character.
hmm
But yeah, in the sense of like what we know about him, if it's true or not, there's so many things that can make you guess if you really look at it. And it says, was this in his mind or was this really happening?
Yeah, no, there's a lot
Because,
of
like,
points that juggle that concept,
yeah,
and even afterwards, there are some points that still juggle that thought, and you
well,
don't
the
get confirmation.
gunshots, he shoots the gun 8 times.
Yeah,
The revolver only holds 6 bullets. Now, granted, also back in the day, we'll have movies where they're shooting guns like 40 times
back in the day,
without
that still
reloading.
happens today. Not
True,
every movie's John
true,
Wick.
true. But the thing is, like the magazines you can lengthen the magazines
Mhm.
nowadays in that sense. Where back in the 70s, 80s, mainly the gun of choice was a revolver. Dirty Harry. You have stuff like that. You have stuff in a sense of where he say like after he meets Thomas Wayne in the bathroom
Yeah.
and he's resting on the sink.
Mhm.
Then he cuts to him at his kitchen before he goes in the refrigerator. It's the same pose.
Mhm.
And before Thomas Wayne, when there's a riot outside the movie theater, he just walks in, no problem. No cop, no one stops him. He just walks in, even though there's a riot going on, he just continues, walks in, and no security, no one stops him. There are things, there are scenes or moments that makes you question. Now, of course, with Sophie, we realize that it is imagination in his head. That's all in his head because we realize that it's not,
It's clear
he
and
never had
present,
a
yeah.
relationship with
But
her.
and that's the like you said, like the movie hits differently each time you watch it because the
Mhm.
first time you watch it, that whole reveal thing, some people were saying like I noticed it, I realized it, but it hits more on your first viewing, right?
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
going into it, it's like one of the it's like watching like Memento or
Sixth Sense?
Sixth Sense, right? Once you know the big twist, yes, it is a spoil for that because you never get that back. But at the same time,
Mhm.
now you're seeing things from a different perspective.
Fight Club.
Exactly.
This movie could also be used like in psychology class as a film study for psychology in a
I don't
sense
know
how
how
a person
accurate
can,
that would be, but yeah.
well, true, but the thing is like you can see how a person is slipping and stuff like that or what could happen. I mean, this movie could be used for many things in a sense of look at maybe not as factual but of similarity,
Mhm.
I would say.
It is.
um,
I consider it a tribute film in a lot of ways. You know, in how it
Tribute
does
to
the
film to what?
well in multiple aspects. A tribute to the things that made it, the references that it constantly reference, all the other movies, all the other franchises that it
Oh yeah.
references. A
Oh, it's a
tribute
love letter.
to,
It's
uh,
a love letter to those stuff. Yes.
yeah, and also a tribute to Joker himself, the character. We never got
Hmm.
an official character origin. Like we talked about, the fact that it's a good portion of it is in his head
Hmm.
does leave the room for interpretation that in a sequel we may get a slightly different origin. Like he may have gone on a homicide run and may have killed those characters, but did all
Yeah.
those things happen like you mentioned, or did
Right.
some other things happen, like the whole thing with the Waynes, you know,
Yes.
dying during the rioting because of the fact that of a
Well,
clown.
well, we know that happens. You know, they do it pretty much similarly, but in a different way, in a sense of because of the riot and because of their like they're the 1%
They get
that
targeted.
they were picked up. Yes,
But
and I like the
here's what I'm
fact.
saying. I'm like that is coming from secondhand, either news or from Arthur
Right.
Fleck's head. He didn't witness it. So
Right.
like the fact
But
of the
they
matter
show
that
that they show it as if like he starts laughing and they flash back to that where
mhm,
of Bruce standing there in the alleyway with his parents dead and he starts laughing and says you won't get it. Now what I like about that scene too, they do the whole thing with the pearls and all that stuff, but it was always in the sense that he was coming from the movies, he was watching Zorro. But here in that time frame, he was watching Zorro the Gay Blade,
yes, hilarious. Love that.
which
Love
could
that
be
reference.
which is a great movie, great hysterical movie,
Mhm.
but it could also indirectly hint that, because, they had this thing with Batman and Robin sleeping in the same bed back in the day, him and Dick Grayson, and they were always insinuating that there was a little affair among the two. So
I always
that
took
could,
it as like well, I know about that reference and whatnot, but I also took the reference to like his relationship to Joker, because like a lot of people would argue that Joker and Batman have a love thing going between each other because they need
Right.
each other. For example, Harley
Oh,
Quinn's
yes,
always in the
definitely.
picture, but if it became like save Harley or save the Bat, Joker will oddly save Batman versus Harley because
Right.
he needs him, and and vice versa.
Well, the Joker needs him more than Batman needs him.
Yes, but to Joker, uh, he's like, you won't admit it, but you need me.
Of
That's
course,
his
I get
mindset.
that.
Yeah,
Right. But what I'm saying, but also in Zorro the Gay Blade, there are two Zorros.
yeah.
One is more chaotic in the sense the gay one. He's a
Hmm.
little more like whatever he dresses, whatever he wants, like that. Where the other one is
Doesn't
more
he wear
like
like a purple velour suit at one point?
he
Like
wears every color. He every time he goes out, he has a different color.
that's so great.
Still the cape and the hat, but he has a different color. Where the other Zorro is just straight black. Now, there's other sites and channels on YouTube, what have you, that break it down moment by moment to the core. But
Hmm.
there's also hints to Joker's lore. When he gets beat up by the kids who took his sign,
Yeah.
and before the Joker name comes up, his flower that's known for shooting out acid, his flower on his jacket shoots out a liquid. You see his hand moving towards his ribs as if like he's hurt his ribs,
Mm,
right? He's like, you know, how people do sometimes, but he hits a button and a little squirt comes out,
I
which I
missed
thought
that.
was interesting. Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's subtle. So, because it's like, because you see him wincing in pain, and then you see a little squirt.
So I took it
Um,
like when he gets back from the hospital and gets into his neighbor's apartment and she's trying to talk to him and he goes, I had a bad day. And
yes.
that's really the start. Like everything was spiraling, but that's really the
Mhm.
start of where things go. 100, granted, he
Right.
already killed the people in the subway, but go real south after that.
But there was other things too. His job, his betrayal of his coworker who he thought was a friend, and then like his him finding out about he being adopted.
And abused.
That kind of leads to why he has that laugh.
Yeah, like
Right. And I
high
love that
potential. Yeah.
part. Yeah. And I love that part that why he laughs is because of a condition. Not like how we know before in the sense of the Joker just laughs because but we find out though his laugh does change because it's no longer a condition, is an acceptance.
Well, there's points where the condition's still there, and then he still has acceptance. Like, no, there are points where I did notice that where
Well, no,
it'll trigger, and then he'll have a genuine laugh.
But like before, when he'll laugh, he'll try to cover it up.
Yes.
And he'll have a card for it. But then his laughing, he's just letting it out. He's no longer ashamed of it. And we see that too in the sense that, like he says, he admits it. I'm off my medication. I'm better now. I feel a lot better.
Yes. Well, the reason he's off his
That's
medication is
before.
no longer being supplied. And that's arguably where things started going
But
bad.
the medication wasn't really for him. It was partial for him. The other medication was for his mother.
Yeah, he was splitting it. Yeah.
He was putting it in her food.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to go through before that is like I think I know why he was abused, and we see it come unfold after the first killing or killings of the three Wall Street guys.
The dancing and the
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, I
Yes.
get that.
So what I want to talk about here is that in the 70s, in the 80s, and even still today, unfortunately, there are so many men
Mm-hmm.
who are very extremely machismo. No
Yeah.
son of mine is going to dance. Dance was a sign of weakness, a sign of homosexuality.
Femininity.
Yes, back then, especially in the 70s, got a little loose in the 80s, a little more relaxed, but in the late 70s, excuse me, or early 70s, however you want to look at it, it was very frowned upon and very embarrassing.
Mhm.
Like if you danced, you're gay.
Yeah, it's not like and we're talking about like not like ballroom dancing or something like that, but like
No,
interpretive
just
dance
like,
or like
but just just dancing because
Yeah.
like just in general, like people think like the stepfather or the boyfriend, however you want to look at it, or the adoptive father. I think it was just the boyfriend of the girl of the lady who
Yeah.
adopted him, who was also mentally ill, which also relates to the Batman, or the Batman took it from her from this because Martha Wayne in the Batman was mentally unstable. She was at Arkham.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't remember that. I mean, they found him
Constantly.
chained to a radiator.
Right. And he had head trauma. She was beat up too. She was abused by the boyfriend too.
Yes, but
Or boyfriends. But the thing is that's what I'm thinking. It's like he was not showing signs of gayness because he was not gay, or maybe or bisexual. Maybe he was bisexual.
or whatever. I mean,
He
he was
right.
enjoying moments and he would dance and like and potentially he would do that. And I mean, we're theorizing now. There's no evidence
Yeah,
to prove one way or the other.
yes, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking because again, very machismo. How guys were, especially, and a lot of men back then, work or no work, they'll get drunk, and who they
Mhm.
hurt, the ones that's closest to them, they beat
Exactly.
up. It's like,
It doesn't matter, if he was doing anything. It's just like
right,
displaced anger. They or
right,
they just abuse whoever's close to them in that
right.
aspect. And a lot of times it's
But
the ones
but
that are weaker.
but Arthur Fleck before that danced also. We saw him dance with his mom at one time. He started dancing, like imagining he was meeting someone. He's like, "Hey, how are you?" And he has the gun in his hand, and the gun accidentally goes
Yeah,
off.
when he has moments of confidence or he's trying to imbue
Hmm.
confidence or even calm to himself, he starts dancing. So like after the subway, when like the moment you're talking about where he's pretending he's going to be meeting somebody before meeting going on stage.
Right, he's dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The
Yeah, but
stairway.
right. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's his confidence, right? And when he feels well after he kills the guys, lack for a better term, an orgasm.
Okay.
He's like, it's all that tension, and it's when we orgasm, we have a release, and that release for him was a dance.
I know the phrase that it's the clarity. It's the post clarity.
I guess whatever, but still, like
No, that's
there's a
what that's
release.
what that's what we're talking about. He's
Okay,
basically
well,
after a intense moment or whatever, he's having
hmm.
a moment of relaxation and clarity. Great example, Dexter.
Yeah, but it was a little weird too because Dexter would like breathe and have shivers just like someone would
He-
have an orgasm.
no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but
He would Dexter did what he did as a
right,
form of release and control, and
right,
and that was an outlet. And
right.
you see physical actions, in his like he's
Hmm.
breathing, shivering, whatever. In Joker's case, he's dancing
Right. He is becoming the Joker, like how Bruce Wayne became the Batman.
because of the results of the world around
Right. Well, he's getting more confidence. Like, this is me. This is my true identity.
him.
I mean, we see that
Mari,
when he meets Murray, he's all in face. Well, we see that before when he leaves the apartment to the
yeah,
subway and he's getting chased. That he's accepted. This is him.
yeah. He even
He
told
is no one
Murray, he's like,
else.
"You called me a Joker on the show. I want you to introduce me
Right.
as that."
That was a great switcheroo, pretty much taken out of the Dark Knight. But we're thinking that he's going to kill himself.
That's the way he was acting out this entire time.
Right. But he was going to because he even practiced in the dressing room because he was going to do it as the killing joke. And it says, I had the last laugh.
Yeah.
But then his anger and frustration at Murray went the other way.
Yes.
But we see in the beginning that when he writes in his journal, he writes it incorrectly, but on purpose, because he's saying that he's worth more dead than alive. Because he writes sense, Cents. But he sees humor in death.
I mean, they show a lot
See
of things
that?
he writes in the journal. Like one of the things he writes is the worst part of having mental illness is people expect you to behave as if you don't. There's actually a lot of brilliant lines in that journal that are written there, but
No,
still,
and it shows that he shows he's intelligent because Joker is known to be highly intelligent.
yes. Even though he doesn't seem that way, he is extremely intelligent.
Just like how many people who are suffer from a condition, they see some things far clearer than people who are normal.
Mm-hmm.
But in those journals, he does see humor in death. He made a couple cracks and jokes that was very dark and morbid, and he's laughing. Oh, in the sense of like determining where things are real or fake, or is on his head. That he's at the comedy club and he's laughing off cue,
Yeah.
like he's laughing, and no one's responding to him. The
Mhm.
comedian's not responding. Usually, the comedians will respond to that. If you're laughing off, whatever, like they may feel like they're being heckled.
Yeah.
The comedian just ignores him, and people around him just ignore him. Again, is this really happening, or is this all in his head? But like again, he saw humor. And he starts laughing and laughing more freely, more comfortably. That becomes his trademark.
Yeah.
No longer a condition. It's just who he is. He sees the humor in death. The Joker is born.
I dare say he doesn't see the humor in death. He sees the humor in what we call life. Because like he says it, like the society is as we is. No one cares anymore. No one, everybody would, handles their own business, do their own things. If he had fallen down, people would just walk right over him. It's like, he's like, and he even says like, I realize my entire life isn't a tragedy.
It's a comedy.
Exactly.
He says it twice.
Yeah,
he says it right before he kills his mom, and he says it at the
comedy at the interview. Yeah, that's the thing. Like that's true in the comic too. A lot of people say like Joker's like a nihilist or anarchist,
narcissist.
Absolutely narcissist. But he's basically kill off almost every character he sees. But
except for the little one.
Except for the little one, because he sees life as a joke. The punchline is the end of it.
What's the punchline? The death?
In some cases. In other cases, there's a little bit of difference to it because like it all depends on his mood. There's some stories where they say like no one really can predict what the Joker does. He's that kind of crazy. Like even when the one guy who he's like, you were always good to me, you can go. As he's walking by, he reaches out to him.
Yeah. Yes.
And,
yes.
And Gary, Gary was walking aliens. By. Yeah. And he's laughing at that. And then Gary tries to get out. And then he can't. And he does laugh, not like offensively. He chuckles like at the situation. Gary can't get out on his own.
Okay, in all honesty, that is a funny scene.
No, it is absolutely. It's
just a shame because he can't get to it. He's like, it's like right out of reach. And then he's like, Arthur, can you help me?
And he goes, oh shit. He gets up and he's like laughing under his breath because at the same time, he's like, doesn't want to do anything to Gary. And he kisses Gary on the forehead. That's a really, really good scene.
Oh, I mean, tell me, there's so many good. I have 3. There's more, but to me, there's 3.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were a student of Freud, oh my God, you would have a field day with this movie.
I imagine. I used to watch some psychiatrist videos on certain movies and franchise. I never watched one on the Joker. I should watch one on the Joker. I know they're out there.
Yeah, because I think they will have a field day in that sense. Still to this day. Talking about favorite scenes, what are yours? Or do you have one or you have multiple? Like I have 3.
So that scene from start to end, from when he opens the door to Gary and Randall, and letting them out. That's a really good scene.
That's my 1 too.
I would also say I kind of like the interview with Robert De Niro. First of all, Robert De Niro, great actor, and as short of a role as he had, because it wasn't a big role in the movie. It was actually really done good.
Well, before you go there, like De Niro,
great actor.
Other movies that were influenced, Taxi Driver, The King of Comedy. Those 2 by Martin Scorsese as well. Robert De Niro starred in both of them. So there was also like a homage tribute to Robert De Niro for having him in the movie.
Mm-hmm. For playing the character that he plays, he does a really good job.
Well, he plays Johnny Carson.
Yeah, he's playing Johnny Carson. But the fact that he realizes like Arthur Fleck is really the criminal behind the entire city situation. He's staying calm. He's he's thinking he's in control when he's not. And also that scene does remind me of
The Dark Knight.
Dark Knight Returns.
Yes, that's what I meant. The Dark Knight Returns. Yes, the Frank Miller story. Of course, it's definitely good. You had the sex therapist there, and you had the other guy there, just like in the comic book. Yeah. But that is different though in the comic book because he poisons the audience and everybody. He poisons everybody. He doesn't kill everybody in the movie. He just kills one guy. In the comic, is a gas that comes out and they all die.
I have a third, the hospital. That exchange between him and the orderly, him going into the stairway, and then I'm going to also include the kitchen. The kitchen? Yeah, because it goes right to the kitchen like you were talking about. Oh, no. You were...
kills the mother, right?
He doesn't kill the mother immediately.
Are you talking about the kitchen in the
when he gets into the refrigerator? Yeah.
Right. He goes in the refrigerator, and then also the phone rings, and it's the studio calling him.
Yes.
To show up.
Yes.
Like, here's the thing. Like, also, like, he got let down. Like, again, like, there's a series of bad days. It's not just one day, even though he says it to Sophie in her apartment, is that Murray was his father, if you will.
Yeah.
Like how Johnny Carson was a lot of people's father. He was the last person they saw before they go to sleep.
It was his television dad.
Right. Also his father, because in the meaning, like, He had imagination, like, hey, like that scenario where he's in the audience, hey, come on down.
He's like, if I had
And
a
they
son like you, I'd be proud. And he hugs him. Yeah.
correct.
Hmm.
Again, a lot of people did that back in the day when you had only had three channels and you only had one talk show,
Yeah.
late night talk show, which was Johnny Carson for years on the Tonight Show. And he was their comfort.
Yeah.
And Murray represented that for him, the author's comfort and father figure. We've done that growing up, that we see these role models, even though they're not role models, but we see them as one, and we kind of imagine being part of their lives or them being part of our lives.
True.
Like a lot of stuff that he does, I've done. Well, I didn't kill anyone. Running that tape and reenacting the same thing as the guest comes in.
Yes.
I've
Yes.
done that. I've done the same thing where I try to match the timing, the shaking the hand or whatever, the way the person sits. I've done that plenty of times of
Hmm.
someone who I emulated, respected, what have you. I bet you've done that. I'm not sure if you have, but I think you've done it once in a while. Any kid has done that at least once or twice in their lives
When I was a kid, I
where they
used to
try to,
pretend I was a Power Ranger and do the same moves that they would do, or like the Ninja Turtles, stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. See,
That was just
exactly.
at my time. I didn't watch one of the talk shows, though.
No, I understand. I'm not talking about that, but I'm just talking about anything. Like you see
Yeah.
how
You
a person
emulate it.
moves. Like Bruce Lee, like his kick or his punch or his stare or his yell, same thing. Or you go into a scenario, you go into like imaginary friends. Hey, how are you? How was your day? Blah 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 blah
Like
blah blah
Arthur
blah.
Fleck, he had an imaginary girlfriend.
Exactly. I'm sorry. You did your three, right?
Yeah, I blended one of my three into two things, but yes.
For me, same thing. When he kills a guy with his scissors, which
Yes.
was nasty and hysterical because of the whole situation in the sense of with the little one, where he stabs him like it's coming, like you see it, like he puts the scissors in his back pocket. He doesn't know who's going to be at the door, but he puts it in. Like he's already know he's going to kill someone.
And the stance he takes right beforehand.
Oh, that
Yeah.
thing where his face is all white, he's like all like scrunched over, and
And
he
he turns his
looks,
head. Yeah.
yeah, like he's going into that zone, and then he bangs the guy's head like 5 times against the wall.
Kind of like the raid.
Yes, but it didn't go down like the raid. But yes, I like when the subway scene
Yeah. I
because
mean,
we're
looking back on
seeing
it, you don't know how truthful that subway scene is.
but regardless, in the sense how it's laid out, in the sense like he actually acts in a self defense, but no one knows it.
Well, also because at this point, we're assuming that he's off his meds,
Right.
so we
But
don't
again,
know how true to self defense it was.
but regardless, it's still a good scene.
No, that's what we're saying is who knows that coming out that clown song that they start singing and they play at the credits. I have like no one knew
Frank Sinatra?
the coming of
Is
the
that Frank
clowns.
Sinatra? Yeah, bring in the clowns. So it's a Frank Sinatra song, so it's
Really?
known. Yeah,
I didn't know
of course you didn't know it. I understand you don't know it. I understand it, but the guy he's
it.
dressed as a clown, so those guys start saying that. They start singing it, but regardless, the way it rolls out,
Yeah.
because they're picking on him, he's getting beat, and he
I
just
mean,
all
they
of a
were
sudden
technically harassing a girl first.
right, and he wasn't bothering them. He was just laughing because of his condition, because he was
Yeah.
getting anxious and all that
Hmm.
stuff, and it starts kicking out.
You know,
Love
that's a
that
real
aspect of
condition
it.
too.
Oh, I know. They
Yeah.
studied that. They research on that before that. But again, it is an act of self defense,
True.
except
True.
for the last one. He
Oh,
starts
yeah.
chasing him.
Hmm.
That's no longer a self defense. The guy escaped the scene, no longer a threat.
I mean,
So
there's
now
plenty of
you're
cases
going,
of here in Florida that exactly fall down just like that, and it turns
well,
from self defense to no longer self defense.
right. But anyway, it was a great scene.
Yeah.
Him running away, him hiding, and then the dance in the bathroom.
Hmm.
Now, granted, okay, I'm not going to take anything away because he won an Oscar for it, but I would just liked a little moment before the dance because he closed the door and like 3 seconds later, he starts dancing. Almost, I would like to have seen it like hit him and
Hmm.
then he starts to accept it that what he just did just ended 3 lives and then goes into the dance. You know what I'm saying? Like a breath. Like
Hmm. Kind of like the other two dance moments.
if he did it here, it seemed too fast that it didn't register to me that he let it sink in. It just seemed like as soon as he closes the door, he starts to dance. Granted, he didn't dance when he killed his mom. He just went somewhat into a slumber.
But that's when he put on the makeup because he was celebrating.
That's right. But
Mhm.
but after he killed her, he just stood and looked outside the window. He just took it all in.
Yes, but, for him, that was a
But
different
granted, he was
it was
angry that
it was a
yeah,
different situation than all the
right.
others.
Yes, it was a buildup of
Mhm.
abuse and all that stuff, correct. And lies and all that stuff. She made him think that he was the son of Thomas Wayne.
Yeah. I mean, you could
All this
argue the fact that, like, in other iterations of Joker, like, you don't know his past because he keeps telling you something different about his past, could be
mhm, mhm.
argued in this origin here is the concept of that being developed. He doesn't know the origin of his past. He's been fed information. His entire life is a lie.
But here he finds out.
He finds out
Or
what's
does
been
he?
no, that's the
Or
thing.
does
He
he?
gets presented
Right?
information, that tells him what he knew was a lie, but then on top of which, he interprets things differently because of his mental condition. He sees
Mhm.
people there that aren't there. He sees things happening that aren't there. So at the same time, his origins are subjective or, ever changing in his mind.
Here's a question, because we don't see it happen.
Mhm, mhm.
Does he kill Sophie and the girl, the daughter?
I don't think so.
You think he just leaves?
I think he just leaves.
Because we don't know. We don't see anything. We just see like
Uh-huh.
him doing the brain shot, and she goes. "Ugh." We just see him in the hallway walking home,
Yeah.
walking to his apartment. So, but we don't know. Unlike at the end of the movie, we see him walking in the hallway at Arkham with blood steps.
Yes. Mhm.
So we insinuate that he killed the psychiatrist.
Mhm.
But we don't know because we didn't see it happen. I'm thinking now, since Sophie refused him, you got to go, he may have killed her and he may have killed the girl,
Mhm.
but we don't know.
Don't know.
We don't know
Yeah, I mean,
because she was startled. And
no cop showed up.
well, we don't know that because
I could have
he,
swear I saw red lights, red and blue lights outside his window shortly after that, but it's still no cop showed up to his doorstep. That's a horrible thought, but yeah, on top
Mhm.
of which, I did question to myself, why did she keep the door unlocked?
Yes,
What?
yes.
It's like, listen, I know a lot of people don't lock their doors, and they say it's a good neighborhood. It's Gotham. No one keeps their doors open.
But I'll be fair because I lived in New York
You knew
and
people
there's
that
a,
left their doors unlocked?
I did,
Bro,
I did. But
how? You got locked outside your house like 2 or 3 times at least.
can I tell you? Because I was about to tell you.
Go ahead, tell me.
So, of course, when you close the door, when you're inside, there's a lock switch you can
Uh-huh.
do, right? But then also, say you leave your apartment to say to do laundry, you can also, without using the key to lock the door, there's a little inside of where the not the doorknob, but the whatever the thing that for the door, for the wall, whatever you close it, you can hit a switch that locks as soon as the door closes, or you can hit the switch where it never locks when the door closes.
Yeah, but I thought she was already in the apartment.
Right. She could have been doing laundry, whatever. She could have done something because sometimes I forgot. Not that I did it all the time. I forgot to hit that switch or I forgot to hit the latch. Because if you hit that little button on the side of the door, it locks. You don't need to have the switch.
Mm.
You don't have to officially lock it. It's already there. So that could have happened.
See, that can't happen for me, man. I'll be locking
Right.
every switch and locking a bolt.
Well, the thing for me, when I stepped out a couple times to do the laundry, I forgot I had that switch. Hence, I locked myself out and didn't have the key. So I had to call a landlord, or I had to call a locksmith, or I had to slide down a few stories off a cable wire to get in my apartment,
Just
which you should never do. I suffered like second-degree burns on my hands on those wires.
didn't you jump to those wires from like what?
No,
You
no.
just climbed down from the roof?
Yes. And I slid and I was like, shit, I don't want to be late for work. But guess what happened? I was late for work
Yeah,
because I had to go to the hospital
with
to
hospital
get my
bills
hands
now.
treated. Wow. Good times. Good times. Now, the third thing I liked
Mhm.
was the riot at the end.
Okay.
Yes, the talk show was great. All that buildup, it was amazing. But I like the fact that after he gets hit by the car,
Mhm.
which was weird, like how they know that he was in that fire truck, I think, whatever, or garbage truck that hit the cop car. Anyway, he's bleeding and he just grabs the blood
And
and he
takes them, make a
smears it
smile.
and makes a smile. And I was like, oh, that's another perfect origin moment right there.
Yeah, it is.
Perfect origin moment. True or not, great scene, great moment.
Was there a scene that didn't sit right with you or felt off?
I can't think of now, but you go ahead.
We kind of talked about it in Batman Forever. The lack of security at the Wayne Manor. Uh, so
Oh, yeah.
he just shows up, Bruce Wayne on the jungle gym. He just ha 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 ha, and then comes up. Granted, You can argue
Okay,
maybe that's in
that
his
was
head.
creepy.
And
That
then he
was
puts his
creepy too.
fingers in Bruce's
Yes,
mouth.
gross.
Absolutely creepy. But man, it's a house on the hill and it's a mansion, and like the only one running security is Alfred.
Apparently,
Does not make sense to me. Is out of place and it doesn't make sense. But it is what it is for that moment. It's a creepy moment. It just doesn't make sense.
it doesn't make sense.
He could take a train and just roll up on Bruce Wayne Manor, or Thomas Wayne Manor, or the Wayne Manor.
Yeah, but it makes sense. It's creepy and stuff like that, but it makes sense that he went that way because he wanted to talk to Thomas Wayne. So he made that effort.
Yes, but what I mean is he could have jumped the fence. That fence was like not even head
Yeah, but
high. It was
I
like
don't think
shoulder high at most.
right. But I don't think that's what he wanted to do. I think he wanted to meet him cordially. You want to be invited.
True. I'm just saying, in the aspect of everything, it just felt out of place in that sense. Like you commented, like how he was able to sneak into the theater when no one
Mhm.
noticing him and whatnot. Now that scene, I interpreted him being able to go in because people don't notice him. At that time, he didn't give a persona of someone of notice. Like he was too timid, so he gets overlooked.
Maybe, but the thing is, there's a riot going on. There's police. Like he's passing police officers who are going into the crowds, and it's not forceful. It's like he's just walking through.
Oh, you're
You
talking
would
about the
think,
subway train.
no, I'm talking about the theater. He goes over a barrier. Or he walks by a barrier.
Mm.
The clown posse, if you will, or picking a fight with the cops. The fight ensues, and he's just walking casually past because there's one line of defense of the cops, but there's also multiple ones.
Yeah. He also
But
steals a bellhop outfit.
yes, and then he stands in front of people as a bellhop, even though he's in the stairs, but he's standing. And when he walks back, when he sees Thomas Wayne leave the theater,
Mm.
he walks past these people, and they pay him no mind. They don't even look at him like this,
Yeah.
as if again it could be in his mind, or like you said, he doesn't pose a threat.
Exactly. He says it on the talk show. Like, no one notices me. Like everybody would walk over me if I dropped dead right now. Again, on the subway, we talked about how that could be a portion of that in his mind. His own psychiatrist doctor, he even told her, like, you don't really listen to me. Like I just told you, all I have is negative thoughts, and you don't listen. And she continues to talk like he said nothing.
No, that's true. That's true. And again, showing stuff again, he has negative thoughts. He likes to he finds humor in you say life. I think I find humor in death because I find that he finds humor in death because all the stuff you do in the living, you're gonna die. So it's a big joke of what you're trying to do. That's how I see it in the sense of him. Like everything that you're trying to accomplish in this world, all the stuff you're gonna do, all these stuff like the people you step on or the people you lift up, whatever, regardless of what you're gonna do, you're gonna die.
I mean, you could
And that's
also
like
argue the fact that, like I said, the life is just a lie. It's a facade. Everybody who's acting a certain way, they put on a mask, and they're like someone else behind that mask. If you remove it, or if you try to act a certain way or do certain things, society is a joke. In the comics, it's argued that he's not crazy. He's hyper sane. Like he sees the world in such a way that he's more sane than the average person, but it's just too ridiculous to him how everything is.
right. You asked about faux pas. I had faux pas when I first saw it because a lot of stuff didn't make sense.
Now it makes sense to you the
But
second time around or a third time.
yeah, because I pay attention a little bit here on the sense of what they said because I didn't believe like there was they were recording comedy shows, but they usually do.
Yeah.
And we got this videotape of this guy at the thing. Sometimes they do videotape in the sense of like the comedian wants to see their act, to see what they did well in, what they had trouble in. So sometimes there's a camera
Yeah.
on there, but back then,
Or
I'm
even
not sure.
scouters.
Right. The VHS did exist
And
back in
beta.
we had a beta machine. We didn't have a VHS until after the fact because we were sold, oh, we got to get the beta. The beta thing is revolutionary.
And on a technical spectrum, that wasn't wrong. Betamax was a higher quality
No,
format.
it was. They were using it at studios. They were using it as professional things. But for cost effective, VHS was the way to go for the consumer and for the companies to make the copies.
Well, that and also one of the world's largest industries was they went the route VHS.
Well, Sony, yeah.
No,
Who?
the X industry.
Oh, the porn. Yeah. Well, they start making movies and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, no. It
With
basically,
the
if you want to know what format the next generation goes into, see what they're advertising on on their releases. It's the same thing
okay.
happened with like when DVD came out versus Laserdisc. No, was it Laserdisc versus DVD?
Well, Laserdisc came out first.
And then there was DVD, but then DVD
Yeah.
became popular. And then there was HD DVD versus Blu-ray. Like the trend happened. Like each winning format was backed by that industry.
Gotcha.
On that note, it is a slower film. It is a different take. If you go into it anticipating like I'm going to see Batman or I'm going to see the Rogues Gallery, or I've talked to people who be like, I don't appreciate it as a Joker film because I don't get to see Joker really. And they made the argument it's like watching Rambo.
You don't see
Rambo,
Joker.
because you don't see that persona of Joker until like the very end, like that chaotic character and whatnot. They thought it was going to be a slaughter fest or whatever. Joker is it has to build up into that. Put it to comparison to something more recently, watching Transformers 1. If you go into watching Transformers 1 thinking that you're going to see OG Megatron from the get-go, just going to town, just wrecking everybody, you're wrong. Don't go into this movie thinking I'm going to see the Joker from my comics. I'm going to see Heath Ledger Joker from the get-go, and that's all I'm going to get. No, you're going to get Joaquin Phoenix turning into the Joker.
We saw that. Like I said, this is a great origin story or a possible origin story of the Joker, where Heath Ledger was already Joker. We saw one origin story with Batman 89 with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
And we saw another one with Killing Joke, the animated one. Yes, there's different ones. So now we can pick. Like if you want this to be the origin story of the Joker, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But is it? Because we're dealing with a person who is not stable.
Yes.
Who lets himself go. He can magic because he can I'm interested at what they're going to do with part 2.
I even argue the fact that like if they were to make a canon with the other Batmans and whatnot, theoretically could be done in such a way, like because the 3 Jokers, you have the comedian, you have the criminal, and then you have did they call him the clown or the mastermind? I think it was just the clown, right?
I guess so. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's the oldest and he's a clown.
Right.
But it really doesn't matter who starts it. So, like, really, you could have done that because that was the homage to the Adam West Joker.
Okay. The Rotten Tomatoes, again, to go back to that, 69% by the critics and 89% by the audience. Who do you match with?
I'm going to be on the audience side.
Yes.
Yeah, and for me, like, I agree with you. You don't need to watch this every time. It's not a yearly kind of film, like once every few years or something like that, because it sits with you.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it is disturbing in a sense of that.
And it's a conversational piece. You can talk about this movie.
Like we are.
Yeah.
Because again, like what really happened, what didn't happen, what could have been. There are some things that we do know. Yes, he made up in his mind that he had a girlfriend. Okay, that's clear. And I guess it's clear enough that he killed his mother.
That's like to me like Shutter Island. A lot of people didn't like Shutter Island.
Yes.
A lot of people hate Shutter Island. And I love Shutter Island. I thought it was great.
Right. Yes. I forgot about Shutter Island. Yes. You don't know what's real. But for what I understand, that he accepts it, his fate at the end.
Well, that's the thing is interpret it that that's the case. Because like they saying like he acted like he was going crazy so he would get lobotomized. And so he wouldn't have to deal with everything versus like he is having a relapse. So you don't know which is supposed to be the case. It's not 100%. And
that's also
say that in the movie.
And that's also Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
Definitely worth the watch. Definitely worth the own. If they did like a double feature, I would have gone to the movies and see this.
That would have been good for the Batman weekend.
Yeah, but that's Batman Day, not Joker Day.
They had Bruce Wayne.
They had Alfred.
I don't like that Alfred. That was the worst Alfred I've ever seen.
You think so? Why? Because he was heavy?
No, because he couldn't do nothing. He didn't. It was like, first of all, Alfred is a legit G. Alfred, in every iteration.
He was military. He was military.
He's MI6. He like gave James Bond a run for his money. And
Right.
like and so in this one like granted like crazy strength is a different type of strength. You ever mess with someone who's crazy, they're strong. Even at that, I feel like Arthur would at least walked away with a broken not hand, maybe like a thumb or a
Arm?
finger.
Well, he could have
Like,
broken the arm. He could have broken the arm against the fence if
yeah,
he
or maybe a broken nose. Like I feel like Pennyworth would have put some flair on that.
I know some people were upset because he was heavy. I was like, oh my god,
I don't
so
care.
what?
No, no. Alfred's been heavy before. There's been multiple iterations where he's been heavy.
Who? I just know the cartoon, the Cape Crusader.
Wait, wasn't he heavy in Adam West?
No, he was thin as hell.
Oh shoot.
Now, we have Joker, right? We have the
Hmm.
Batman. Again, these are not part of the DCU or the old DCEU. Would you like to see other characters done like this?
I mean, they got Penguin coming out the series. I'm gonna be watching that when it's done.
Well, I've watched it. It is good. And I've seen what they've done already in the sense of how they went about it. But that's a series. I'm talking about movies.
Yeah, I would have been down for. I mean, they
They
tried to do
tried it
that with
once with
Spider-Man villains.
no, I'm not talking about Marvel. I'm talking about DC. They did it with Catwoman.
They
That
did it with
sunk.
Black Adam.
No, but he was part of the DCEU.
True, true, true,
I'm
true.
talking about like these standalones kind of thing. These standalone universes.
Oh, yeah, I would have been down. I
And
would have been down for that. Because there
I
was
mean,
a
I don't.
time nothing where everything was standalone. Blade was standalone. X-Men was
Mhm,
standalone. Spider-Man was standalone. Fantastic
right,
Four.
but I like what they did with this one and then the Batman, where they used other well-known movie as resources or influences to
Mhm.
tell the story of the main character. And the dance scene on the stairs was really good too, with the music and how it just matched. It
Of
was
course, they
great.
used that for the trailer. That was like one of the great moments in the trailer.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, how they timed it with the music and his kicks, and then he's
I
stomping, and
love the part where the
it's
cops are
and it's
looking at him, and
well, yeah, well, you see
Shane
them,
Wiggum is just
yeah, you
staring at
see
him.
them in the shadow, in the foreground or background, however you want to call it, but they're like, you see them showing up,
Mhm.
you're like, oh, and they're like looking at us like, wait a minute, hey, he's like, oh shit,
No,
and
even
he
before that,
runs.
you see like Detective Burks. He like has the look of the hell's this?
No, but I'm saying though, while he's dancing, you see them
Yeah,
at the
you
top
see
of the
them
steps.
approaching. Yeah.
They're blurry, and then they go do a close up, and they're like, what the huh?
Mhm.
And then yes, the chase ensues.
I'm gonna ask a weird because you kind of asked this question, but we didn't really point on it. If you could pick a character, who would you pick? I'm just curious. Who would be a good standalone villain character?
Mr. Freeze.
And we're saying without Batman.
Batman doesn't have to be involved. You don't have like again, Batman here was done very little. There's a
Yeah,
two
yeah, that's what I'm
scenes,
talking about. Like, just without him.
or there's well, yeah, the main character in the sense of being more of the focus point was Thomas Wayne.
Yeah.
Bruce was in it just two scenes, where Thomas
Hmm.
Wayne was in several. Yeah, you can have it in the world of Batman, but again, not like we have it here, where it's separate. Right, the focus point
Yeah.
is Joker. The focus point will be Doctor Freeze. It could be a love story, and it is a love
Yeah.
story.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, in a lot of ways.
It is a love story because he falls in love with this woman. It's like the Crow. Hello, if you put in the way of the Crow, and they do it in a better way. The reason why I'm saying is
Okay.
that he's in love with his wife, right? They're in love with each other, but she gets sick, and then he needs the funds to save her,
Hmm.
but he doesn't. But he has to put her what's it called? Cryo
Are,
status.
are you still talking about Doctor Freeze? Okay, I thought you were trying to try Crow to Joker.
Oh no, not Joker and Crow. No, I'm talking about
Doctor Freeze and
Crow
Crow.
and Doctor Freeze.
Gotcha.
Because, right, again, it's a love story. And then something happens to her and he
Mhm.
witnesses and he gets punished because now he has to be in a suit, a cryo suit himself. But he puts her in cryostasis that she doesn't die, that he keeps her alive in a way that she can find a cure. But he doesn't have the funds. So, what does a person who is desperate to save the one he loves, what does he do?
Yeah.
I forgot how she goes into that. Like, I know she goes sick, but I don't know how, in the sense like it was poisoned or whatever. I can't remember.
It was a
Something like that.
a disease, I want to say, or like a genetical thing. For
Right.
me, I kind of like either Killer Croc or Bane
Okay.
because their
Bane.
origins don't start with Batman.
Right.
They get to Batman. Two-Face starts with Batman
Uh,
without question.
right. But you're right. Croc and Bane don't. But yes, that would be great to figure out. Like I hate Bane's origin.
In Batman Robin.
No, not Batman and Robin. Oh, Batman and Robin, but also The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was just like, what? But anyway, I love the Penguins, Danny DeVito's Penguin, and that origin story. It makes sense. But I would like to see that done in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of hard though, because what's great about Joker, you don't know exactly what is real and what is not. That's what's great about this. It's all in his mind, or is it?
Yeah.
It actually happened, or did it? So that's the great about this, where the other ones is a little more substantial, a little more concrete, a little more true
Yeah.
with the other characters.
Mm-hmm.
But I would just, again, if they use a different kind of influence of stuff that we know, that we grew up, and they translate it into this, I'll be down for it. I doubt it will happen, but I'll be down for it.
Yeah, it won't happen. But I mean, it'd be great. I think a Bane movie, a Killer Croc movie, could be a really good horror film.
Yes, especially in that thing with the whole a wives' tale in the sense of crocodiles and sewers in New York.
Well, I'm thinking like because he starts off as a carny worker, he doesn't work, and like thinking of like Sling Blade meets like Killer Croc meets like there was another one I'm trying to tie in there, but you know what I'm getting at is like he's someone who's has a disability. There's people that care for him, but then there's also people that abuse him, and he starts off nice, but then he starts going bad.
And plus, the people do have that. It's rare, but that skin condition is like really like rough, whatever. So it's like, yeah, that could work. That could work.
Mm-hmm. And then Bane is just like, I was born in the darkness. No, Bane.
I gotta tell you, like
he was born in the prison and he grew up in that life, but like you can follow the child growing through that life and then becoming like the king of that prison. And then,
but what other movies can you use as that? Right. So that's like the thing. You get what other movies can you use as an influence. But that being said, I love Harley Quinn and Kite Man, the two cartoon animated series that's on Max, where you have Bane who does the voice, who does that voice. And thank you, Tom Hardy, for doing that.
We hated the voice at first, but then we learned to love it.
Oh yes. All right, guys, that is our DCness review of Joker. Have you seen it? What was your favorite moment? Let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Until next time, we'll be the next time. I'm Angel.
I'm Adon.
I love you, bro.
Love you too.